Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it could be the end of the world. I mean, financially speaking, it could be like this could be it. So, want to make sure we're here for it. The news today is that there's a big bank that went totally bust with a bunch of people's money in it too. So I'll tell you about it. I'll explain it. So I looked into it today. You probably don't have your money there, but people do. People who have startups mostly. So I'll show you guys. But is this time? Is it time for the new great financial crisis? Are they going to work it out before Monday? People are calling for bailout already. A few different people, including a Congress member. Another Congress member is saying that they won't support any kind of a bailout. But people are out money for real if they had too much at this bank. So I'll tell you guys about it and tell you whether your money is safe at the bank. There was something that happened with Wells Fargo today. They had some kind of problem with deposits. Some people are claiming, what are the conspiracy theories about it? There's some kind of clip from Donald Trump where they say he predicted it. So I'm going to play that. There's Jim Cramer, who recommended the stock a month ago. So people are making fun of that because Jim Cramer, people say he's always wrong. Cryptocurrency, is this the time for cryptocurrency and also gold and silver? Like, what do you want to have in these times of uncertainty, banking uncertainty? So I'll cover that stuff. And then I have maybe one other clip of, there's a few things. Just the stuff I was able to get together today. I was listening to the guys talk about it though. Could be a real systemic problem, like seriously. I would be concerned. Well, if you have money at the bank, if it's less than 250 grand, the government says they cover it, right? So, but if it's more than that, then at one bank, then it's at risk. Banks don't even have your money in the first place. So you want to get it out before everybody else does. But there is a certain amount that's guaranteed by the government, by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Is it called corporation? FDIC. They say FDIC insured. Would you be better off? Would these companies have been better off if they had all their money in Bitcoin? Maybe, actually, even with Bitcoin being down a lot. So is it Bitcoin's time to shine, or precious metals for that matter? So what are you guys thinking? Are you guys worried there's going to be this? We've been waiting for some kind of financial crisis. So this could precipitate it. So I'll explain it. I'll explain how the Fed did it too, because it's the Fed. It actually has to do with the Fed and interest rates and raising interest rates. People kept asking, how long are they going to raise interest rates for? Or people said, oh, they're going to raise rates until something breaks. Well, this might be it. What's the response going to be from the government? Is the government really going to let banks fail? So they're going to get together. It happened on a Friday. Oh, I have a conspiracy theory about that. Let's see. I had a conspiracy theory about it happening. Yes, I have that. Great. Just want to make sure, because there will be conspiracy theories. One of them is that this company was a woke company. They had a diversity, equity, and inclusion department, and they might have invested in things based on ESG stuff. So people are saying that might be the problem. I'll explain. They do explain what happened. Did the bank CEO know about it in advance because he was selling stocks? Did anybody else know about it in advance? This isn't the only bank that failed. Another bank just failed, Silvergate, which was kind of big. Not like this one. This was number 18 in the country, the top 20 bank. in the country. Second largest bank failure ever. I think it's in the United States. I think they said it's the worst since the Great Depression. So, like, really serious. Stocks were down last 2 days a lot. Gold is up today. And Bitcoin is actually, as I'm talking, rising. So is it, like I said, we'll cover all that stuff. I'll cover all the financial news today. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the other side of this. Okay, cue musical intro. Boy, that's brilliant. I do think some things in the world are real. Like you guys. You guys are real. Most of you. Most of my listeners, I think, are not just in my head. I think I have the metrics to prove it. You've taken a leap of faith today. What is that sound? And I apologize if you take offense. I'm a little offended myself. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the future. What it is, joining you live from sunny California. It's a beautiful day today. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. And I bring you the news, the real news. Yes, and thank you for tuning in. I'm just getting a notification in the chat right now. People said Snoop Dogg just went live on DLive, of all places. So the fact that you're tuned into this show shows that you know what it's all about. You know you're going to learn information. But I will explain exactly like how bonds work and why this has to do with rising interest rates. If you want to know specifically, very few people on this planet understand economics, even the basics. So if you can understand some of it, you're doing way better than most people out there. Most people have no idea. They don't know how, like, bonds, like when the rates go up, the prices go down, the rates go down, the price goes up. People don't understand that stuff. So I'll try to explain it if I can in a way that makes sense to explain what happened to this bank. So let's go with, and if you want to support the show, you can give super chats. We take those to get us higher up in the rankings. You can like the video. I see very few people decided to hit the like button so far. You can like the video. Trust me, you will. And then you can leave super chats and you can donate. If you want to skip the 30% fee on super chats, you can donate to Lift the Veil 411 buymeacoffee.com/Lift the Veil. I'm hearing about everybody gets banned from everywhere. The counterparty risk. If there's anything I can teach you or tell you about or help you learn about, it's counterparty risk and learning what has counterparty risk and what doesn't. So when you have money at the bank, you have counterparty risk because the bank, when you deposit money at the bank, it becomes the bank's liability, but they are not required to hold the money. Okay. I know that sounds crazy. Oh, it might sound crazy if you haven't heard it before. When you give them your money, they have a liability. So in other words, if you ask for it, they have to pay you, right? So they have that liability, but they're not required to actually hold the money. In fact, there's something like in effect right now. This has to do with fractional reserve banking. As a result of COVID, it used to be that banks were required to hold at least 10% of their deposits. So if you deposited $1,000, the bank was required to have at least $100 on hand. But that's it. That's fractional reserve banking. And then they can just lend out, and they can lend out the rest or invest it or play around with it, do what they want to try to make money. Theoretically, they're going to try to make money on your money while you're not using it. Right. And they're holding your money. So maybe they're giving you an interest rate, probably not. maybe they're holding your money without charging you any fees. So they need to make money somehow when they hold your money, right? Banks have to make money. So they take your money and they invest it in things like bonds. Like bonds are the simple thing, but it could be other things too. So then when you go to ask for it, then they just have to come up with it somehow. So if there's a run on the bank where everybody asks for all their money, like a bunch of people ask for their money all at once, that's a run on the bank. The bank, because they're only required to hold like 10%, it used to be 10%. They can't meet withdrawals. It's not necessarily that they don't have the assets, because they might own things that they could sell and turn into money. It's just that their assets might be illiquid. Like they can't just sell them right away. Like it could be real estate, or in the case of this bank, it was mortgage-backed securities. So like, and that's how banks work. Okay. That's why when you have your money on deposit at the bank, there's a risk, counterparty risk. Like your counterparty is the bank, and they could go out of business. If you own debt, then you take the counterparty risk that the person won't repay the debt. Okay, so like if you give a loan or something, which is similar to buying debt. Like you can buy debt. It's weird, but you can. So, and then you get paid a return on it. And, but the risk is that the person you lent the money to doesn't pay you back. So that's your counterparty risk in that case. The least risky thing on earth, supposedly, is US Treasuries, because you loan your money to the US government and they pay you interest. And then at the end of some term, they give you all your money back. Those are like treasury bonds. So you buy, let's say, for example, right now, a 2-year bond, I think it yields close to 5%. You'd give them your money, you get 5% of the total each year for 2 years, and then they give you all your money back. Does that make sense? So if it's a 30-year, then you get the interest rate for however long, and it's a lower interest rate right now for 30 years. And then at the end of 30 years, you get all the money, you get the investment back. That's how bonds work. Treasury, like US Treasuries, are generally considered the least risky. Like if you're going to have counterparty risk, it like between a bank or a personal loan or having crypto, having crypto on an exchange. Most people consider loaning your money to the US government to be the lowest risk, because people assume the government will always pay. And it's probably true, because the government can print their own money. So theoretically, the government never goes broke. They're never not going to be able to pay. But there's still risk. There's still risk. It's the least risky, but it's possible one day that the government can't pay. Unlikely, because they print the money, but it's possible. So that's counterparty risk. If you have gold being stored by somebody else, then you're taking a risk that whoever you're storing the gold with that doesn't produce the gold when you ask for it. So there are lots of different ways you can own gold, like gold money. Gold money, supposedly you give them money and they supposedly buy you gold and keep it somewhere, and then you can turn it into cash whenever. But if you ask for the gold, that's when it becomes a thing. So you take counterparty risk if you let somebody else store your gold. If you hold your gold or silver, whatever, in a safety deposit box, there's counterparty risk that the bank won't be open, It could be robbed, whatever. So there's counterparty risk in that case to holding gold. If you hold cryptocurrency on an exchange, on an exchange where, like, if you let somebody else hold it, like you don't have the keys, there's the risk that the exchange goes out of business, like FTX. So a bunch of people had their money at FTX. I have some money with KuCoin. KuCoin could go out of business, so I got to get my crypto out of there. If you have your cryptocurrency in an exchange, there's counterparty risk. So people had it with like BlockFi, Celsius, FTX, all the crypto companies that went out of like business. Those people lost money because it was a risk. So people with cryptocurrency, it happened to a bunch of companies where people lent out their cryptocurrency to earn interest. Like you could earn interest on cryptocurrency, but people didn't realize there was risk to that. And then they lost Celsius, BlockFi, pretty much everybody, Voyager. So that's counterparty risk. There are only a few ways to not have counterparty risk. And those things become more like people start thinking about those things a lot more when banks fail. They start thinking, oh, how could I have protected my own money? So there are a few ways. You can have cash, literal cash. You store it under your bed or whatever, in a suitcase or shoebox, whatever. Cash, that is cash. It's good for goods. You can pay taxes with it. It's real. It might devalue, but it's yours as long as it's in your possession. So that's a real thing. So a lot of people say like carry, have a certain amount of cash set aside for if you can't withdraw from the bank, if the, power goes out, whatever. You have that cash, then there's no counterparty risk. You have it. The other things, the investment vehicles that are like that have no counterparty risk, there are only a few. There's gold and silver that are virtually in your possession. It could be buried in your backyard, could be in a safe, could be just somewhere where you have access to it. You store it. That has risk too. That has risk too. It's not counterparty risk though, because you don't have to count on somebody else, but then you have to secure it. Then like you're the risk. You could get robbed. Somebody could find out where you buried your gold or silver. Those are the things that can happen to you if you store your own precious metals, but they're yours. They're yours. If you want it, and at any time, they can be turned into cash. Like there's always a market value for gold or silver. Someone will always buy it for cash. So, or you could use it for goods too, if somebody will trade it with you. So you have it. So the ultimate form of money, the one that's been around for like 6,000 years and like the safest possible form of money is gold, and silver is like gold, but gold is, it's money. It can be turned into money at any time. You can go to a coin store. If you've never done it before, if you have gold or silver, you can take it to a coin store or a thing that says like "We Buy Gold." Those places pop up. There's one that just popped up near me. It says "We Buy Gold" or whatever. You just go in. They'll literally give you cash money without asking, without asking for any ID and stuff too. If it's less than $10,000. So, and you can purchase silver and gold, at least in California, if it's less than $10,000 with cash, and it's and not pay tax, not pay sales tax if you buy over a certain amount in California. And then it's like off the record, basically. I mean, you'd have to declare your gains or losses or whatever when you sold it, but it's not tracked. It's not like most kinds of cryptocurrency. But yeah, it's almost like not like any kind of cryptocurrency, because you can't buy cryptocurrency with cash. Well, I think you can at a Bitcoin ATM if you pay. So if you're willing to pay a very high fee, you can in some ways buy cryptocurrency with cash, or you could offer somebody. But most of the time, if you're going to buy cryptocurrency, you have to provide government identification in order to do it. So pretty much every way. They call it KYC, know your customer stuff. It's like anti-money laundering stuff. So you mostly have to do that to buy crypto. Gold and silver are different, right? If you buy them in person. And to buy them in person, you can buy usually at coin stores and normally at a real coin dealership, like a real coin store, not a pawn shop. But even at pawn shops, I believe any coin dealer, they have like a morality, they have like an ethics thing they have to follow, where they're not allowed to overcharge you or pay too little for what you have. Like they're not supposed to screw you over ethically. They still can, but if you go into a coin store and you ask them for like silver bullion, then you should pay close to the market price, close to the spot price, although it's kind of crazy now. But anyway, you can go in with, like I said, cash, buy it off the record. It's real and it's safe. And if they print more money, it goes up in value. Typically, precious metals are going to be inflation resistant because they're scarce, because there's a scarcity of supply. There's only so much gold on Earth. And there's demand. Like people need it. People need gold. People want gold. Same with silver. Like people need it. So there's a demand and there's a supply. And over time, if they print more money and there's inflation, then the value nominally of gold and silver should go up over time. So like right now, if you had money from before 1964, silver money, it's worth like 20 times face value, I think. About, not sure exactly, but close to 20 times face value. So just since 1964, money, like when it used to be real, silver money, has lost 20x, or the value of silver has gone up 20x over that period of time. So that's how much so that means the value of a dollar has gone down, what is it, 95%? I don't know. I think that's how it works out. So but the silver would have kept you safe. Like if you had money in gold or silver, they would have gone up a lot over time. Over the last 10 years, Bitcoin's been way better. Gold hasn't been that great. But they are the ultimate form of money. The other way to not have counterparty risk is to have cryptocurrency in your own wallet. And then once again, the difference is when you have counterparty risk, the reason you give somebody else your money is because they can secure it. So that's what you're paying for or whatever. When you give a bank your money, it's because you don't want the risk of holding a bunch of cash, right? And it's convenient. But theoretically, it's because they provide security. So if you have cryptocurrency on a cryptocurrency exchange, you don't have to worry about getting hacked. Theoretically, the bank is the one that worries about you getting hacked and theoretically keeps you safe from getting hacked. If you control your cryptocurrency in your own wallet, then you're responsible for not getting hacked. And that means so you then become responsible for your own security, just like if you had cash under your bed or in a safe or gold in a safe, you're responsible for securing it. And that means in the case of cryptocurrency, you just have to keep track of 12 words somehow, which most people write down and keep somewhere safe, supposedly. And then nobody can take your money. It can't disappear. If you had all if these companies had all their money in Bitcoin in their own wallet, They still have all the Bitcoin, all of it. And nobody could do anything about it. So those are the advantages to things without counterparty risk, where you own the damn thing, where you actually own it. Cryptocurrency, you actually kind of own it, even though it exists somewhere in the ether, because you control the keys to it, because you're the only one who can do transactions with it. You really kind of own it. It's like real. So that's why people like Bitcoin. People are talking about it a lot now. It's actually really pumping right now. So this could be a moment for it, but it could also melt down. So we'll see. I have to think about it. I like gold. If you want to invest digitally in gold, if you want to invest in gold without buying physical gold, you can invest in gold stocks. But those are like a leveraged version of gold. But those, I'd say, I have some gold stocks, and I have precious metals, and I like them. And I believe I have control of them. And I have cryptocurrency, which I have control of. Although I have some at Coinbase, because I trust Coinbase with my security as much as I trust myself. Reserve, what I was saying about reserve requirements, we have fractional reserve banking. I told you what that means, right? They don't have your money. So now the regime we're under right now is something called zero reserve requirement. Reserve requirements are a tool used by the central bank to increase or decrease the money supply in the economy and influence interest rates. Reserve requirements are currently set at zero as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So as a response to COVID-19, banks actually have to hold nothing. Like you give them $1,000, they're like, okay. Like you can just say, okay, see you later, $1,000. Hopefully, when I ask for it back, they'll provide it. So what happened with Silicon Valley Bank? I'll explain it. Silicon Valley Bank had a bunch of deposits. It's actually fairly straightforward. Silicon Valley had a bunch of deposits. They're big bank in Northern California, in Silicon Valley, that banks with a bunch of startups. They had a bunch of deposits. A bunch of companies would put their money in the bank with SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, SVB. Then interest rates went up. Okay, I'll explain it. Okay, the bank had so much in deposits that they had to do something with it, right? I told you, they don't just hold the cash. So they got a bunch of cash, a bunch of deposits, and they had to do something with it. So mostly what they did was buy mortgage-backed securities, which is debt, which is relatively safe because it's backed by the U.S. government. A mortgage-backed security, if you buy one, it'll pay a yield, just like a bond. So mortgage-backed security is something where it pays a yield. You give them money, like you might pay, I don't know, $100,000 for a mortgage-backed security. And then let's say you earn 1%. So you earn $1,000 a year, I guess, right? 100,000. Yeah, you'd earn 1,000 a year from that, if you bought it at 1%. So they kind of did that with mortgage-backed securities. They took their deposits and they bought those things. Mortgage-backed securities take a long time to mature. Wow, this is where it gets complicated. So see if you can follow, and then you'll know why it has to do with rising interest rates. So they bought these things and it was at a very low interest rate. I don't know, 1 or 2%. Since then, interest rates went up. Okay. So let's say you bought something with a long term, like 20 years or something. Like a mortgage-backed security would have a long term before it pays off. So you lock up like $100,000 or what, $1 million, or in this case, billions and billions of dollars. And mortgage-backed securities at a low interest rate. Interest rates go up. Okay. You don't have to keep the debt for the entire term. So let's say it's 30 years. You don't have to keep it the whole time. You can sell it. Okay. Somebody else will buy it because if you think about it, like you have long-term debt, let's say you have something that yields 1% or whatever. You don't want it anymore. You want cash. You need the cash money. So you can sell it. People will buy it because they're just like, okay, so you had 30-year debt. It's 1 year later. There's 29 years left. And you can still get a yield on it, right? And let's say it's whatever it is, this low yield. Okay, so that's cool as long as interest rates don't go up. Because when interest rates go up, the value of the debt goes down. I'll explain that. So, and this is what happened to them. You have the debt, okay, so it's paying this low rate. You want to sell it. If interest rates stay the same, let's say you're getting 2%. If interest rates stay at 2%, like if somebody wanted to get a new debt on the open market, they're still getting only about 2%. So they might buy it from you for full price for everything you paid for it. So if it was $100,000, it's yielding 2%, $2,000 a year or whatever, people will give you $100,000 for it straight up. Because why not? It yields 2%. That's what they can get on the open market. So you can sell it. No problem. It's very liquid. Like people want it too, because people might not want to go the whole term. They might want the shorter term. So that's cool with them. They'll buy it from you. But if interest rates go up, then they won't pay you as much because so let's say it was $100,000 again, and you were yielding 2%. Let's say a year later, the yields in the open market are 5%. So the same $100,000 debt instrument so you have one that you're holding that's yielding $2,000 a year. But if somebody else wanted to get one on the open market, they would get $5,000 a year for a full term. So if you want to sell into that market, if you hold it for the whole term, you'll get all your money back. Okay, like if you hold it the whole term, you'll get all your money back. But if you need to sell it and the market interest rate is much higher than it was when you bought your debt, then people aren't going to pay you as much. Just think about it. If it's $100,000, right, and however long the term is, if they're earning an extra $3,000 a year by buying some debt on the open market, why would they buy your debt for full price? So they're going to subtract whatever they would lose and buy your debt you'll lose money. Okay. If you can understand that, that's why interest rates going up matters, because the value of existing debt goes down when that happens. And then if people need to sell, if they're forced to sell, then they're forced to sell for a loss. So that's what happened to Silicon Valley Bank. They got a bunch of deposits. They invested them in low interest rate debt products. Interest rates went up a lot because that's what the Fed did to try to slow down the economy. Then a bunch of people at the bank asked for their money back. So they gave the bank their money. The bank went out and bought these long-term debt instruments at low interest rates. Then the people want their money back now, but interest rates are higher and the debt isn't worth as much. So the bank had to sell the debt for a loss. So that's what happened. They had to sell the debt for a loss. And then there was a huge run on the bank. They didn't have enough capital and they've been put out of business. That's it. So if you can understand it, you understand way more than most people understand about finance. That's why the Fed raising interest rates matters, because it basically put this bank out of business. If rates had stayed the same, then it wouldn't be a big deal. They could just sell their debt for what they paid for it. But the fact that interest rates went up so much and their debt went down in value so much, and they can't afford to hold it. If they could afford to, they would just hold it for the whole term and they would get all their money back. But because they can't afford to hold it, because people are requesting their money, and because of fractional reserve banking, they didn't have the money, they had to raise the money. That's what happened. So that's what can happen and that can happen to other. That can happen in other cases too. So Silicon Valley Bank, that's what happened to them. Apparently $42 billion was pulled out within 24 hours, which left SVB with a billion negative. Yeah, leaving them $1 billion negative, and now they're out of business. Okay. So that's what happened. Now, a bunch of companies, now the FDIC came in and said, okay, you're closed. We're taking over. They guaranteed deposits up to $250K. But the rest is not insured. So I think Zero Hedge said there's like 200 billion in assets, 173 billion in deposits, of which 150 billion were uninsured. So theoretic at risk of loss. Not all of the money is gone. People will still get some money back, but they're forced to sell their stuff at a loss. So now there's a hole. Not all the money is there, but not all of it's gone. So, some people will get some money, but it's locked up for now, except for the 250. I don't even know if they get the 250 right away. But then after that, it's not insured. So USDC, this is crazy because USDC is a cryptocurrency that's a stable coin that's worth the same as a US dollar. Okay. And like you can normally exchange it 1-for-1 for a US dollar. It's worth $1. Apparently they used Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, for up to 25% of USDC reserves held in cash. So you can hold the difference between holding Bitcoin and like a stable coin, like Tether or USDC, is Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. So there never was a guarantee for being able to exchange it for a fixed dollar amount. But stable coins are backed by actual US dollars or debt, pretty much. So if the stablecoin issuer doesn't have as many US dollars as there are stablecoins, then the stablecoin could be fucked. So USDC, it was always the best because it's way better than Tether. And I have USDC. And now I don't even know what to do with it. I have to think about it. This whole thing could turn pretty disastrous. So anyway, that's USDC. That's the crypto side. You guys understand why Bitcoin is kind of safer, maybe, because it's not backed by anything. There is no bank. There is no counterparty. There's just the code in your wallet. If you hold it in your own wallet. But USDC would actually carry risk. Roku apparently had $487 million with Silicon Valley Bank. So only $250K is covered. So apparently Roku had 26% of its cash with SVB. BlockFi apparently had $227 million of its cash at SVB. And BlockFi already was in bankruptcy and was about to repay their clients. And I think some of that money was going to be used to repay the people whose money got held up because they went bankrupt. So that's a total mess with BlockFi. Roblox said 5% of its $3 billion cash security balance is held at SVB, and then a whole bunch of other companies. You can see this long list. A whole bunch of other companies. So let's cue the conspiracy theories. Some people say it was hedge funds or venture capitalists ganging up and intentionally taking down SVB. Okay, let's show you conspiracy. Let's see, there is a conspiracy theory because it happened on a Friday, kind of. Yeah, it did happen on Friday. Today's Friday. I'll show you the people calling for bailouts. There are multiple people calling for bailouts. Let's see, here we go. Okay. I haven't even watched this clip yet. Hopefully you guys are doing good. Feel free to drop coffee and a note if you have anything to add. Let me show you this. I'm just checking the chat.
To use money. This is how this is going to go down. They tell us that they plan on telling us on a Friday night. See if you can guess why they would tell us on a Friday night that the banking system has collapsed. Don't worry, don't use any money. We'll figure this out and we'll take care of you or not. We'll tell you on a Friday night. Listen to her explain when this will happen. Watch.
How would we use targeted guarantees to allay concerns about excess cash use? There's a lot of questions here. And so, there are a lot of things we've been thinking about, and what we want to hear from you today is what you think the priorities would be in order to go about setting expectations appropriately in public about how we would execute Title II, so that if and when we do have to have that announcement on Friday night, ideally Friday night, that people are in a position to receive it, understand it, and say, yeah, that works. And we can see how this will happen. Of course, there will be doubters, but there's a lot of things going on.
Okay, thanks for that.
So Friday night, of course, the banking system is closed. So people all weekend can just be at home freaking out because, wait a minute, what's going to happen with my money?
Yeah.
My bank's going, we're in this economic, what the hell are you going to do about my money? It's gone.
Okay, so so conspiracy theory. Let's see. There was also people said Donald Trump predicted it. Bitcoin's pumping right now, by the way. You definitely you can see the advantage. This tells you the advantage to Bitcoin. I explained it right. The disadvantage is a lot of people have Bitcoin and cryptocurrency at banks. That's FTX was a bank, and that screwed up the price of cryptocurrency. Tether is also like a bank. These stablecoins could also screw up cryptocurrency. So that's the only issue with crypto. But otherwise, I'm looking at the chart. It's pumping. So that's good. Let me show you Trump. People are saying Trump predicted it. So I'll play that.
All of this incredible job that we've done will go down like that. It will be a terrible, terrible sight. It might even be a 1929 situation. So you have a chance to have the greatest numbers in history. You're almost there. We're almost back to where we were from the standpoint of the stock market. Think of that. But you'll have a crash like you've never seen before. You put the wrong person in office, you'll see things that you would not have believed are possible. All of this incredible job that we've done.
I see. It was just his prediction that Biden was going to, of course, people are saying it's Biden's fault. It's fair. Very little to do with Joe Biden or Democrat policies. It just has to do with, well, kind of the Fed and the fact that they printed so much money that they created inflation, and then they felt like they had to raise rates to combat inflation. So then raising rates put this bank out of business. Who's it going to happen to next? All right. Like, and then how bad is it? Let's see. Okay, here's a guy that says really bad. Play that for you. Oh yeah, let me pin this. All right. Here's a guy that says it's really bad.
The experts that I talk to say that we're on a path where this, will be resolved in weeks or months. The opinions are sort of all over the place. It's a live situation. We don't know what's going to happen to the depositors long term. But what I can say is that these thousands of currently small businesses that would become big drivers of GDP in the United States over the next 10 years, they're never going to get a chance to actually be that in the future. And that will be to the detriment of thousands of jobs, if not tens of thousands of jobs in the future.
Gary,
these depositors will not survive, weeks or months without some sort of plan from the government.
Gary, could this also be part of a repricing of some of the startup ecosystem that we've been talking about for a while, where, yes, people were maybe avoiding having to raise more because they didn't want to get their valuation taken down. They didn't want to come public because the public markets aren't. Could this end up where they actually have to get valued in order to get an inflow of cash, and then various institutions, including public companies that are holding not the seed stage, but some of the somewhat larger startups on their books in their venture portfolios, have to reprice that as well?
I think the financial world does not have the capability to save these companies. Like, we will just wholesale throw out startup innovation in America if we allow these companies to die in the next weeks. And it really is a matter of next week. I have companies that are calling me saying, how am I going to make payroll? All of my legitimate cash that I was using to plan out to be able to even just run the business, was in a bank account that I do not have access to anymore. And so, what the FDIC really does need to do is take into account these people. These are the small guys who, if we damage them, it hurts us all. And there will be a catastrophe. This is a national security issue because this is a lot bigger. This will splash across all of the economy.
There you go. So that's the catastrophic view. He's not the only one. David Sachs, who was an early investor in, I believe David Sachs was part of PayPal with Elon Musk. He's calling for the government to step in. So this guy basically said all this innovation, like this bank invested like almost a lot of their money was from startups, tech companies. So, and I mentioned like some of them like Roku and stuff. So he's saying they're all screwed basically, maybe forever, if the government doesn't bail. Like that's what he said. If the government doesn't do anything, we're fucked. So prepare for the government to do that. That's the next thing, is like, then it's to predict what happens next. The government, they'll let things, they don't let things fail. Like they don't let, if there's a crisis, if they think they might try to say, oh, we'll let this one fail. But if it turns into a crisis, they're going to print more money. If they print more money, that's when gold goes to the moon, silver, Bitcoin. Maybe it's why Bitcoin's pumping right now, because people think like if there is a bailout, that means more inflation. And that means limited scarce assets to the moon. So David Sachs says, where is Powell? Where is Yellen? Stop this crisis now. Announce that all depositors will be safe. Place SVB with a top 4 bank. Do this before Monday open, or there will be contagion and the crisis will spread. He says anybody who thinks that preventing bank runs and panics isn't a federal responsibility missed a couple hundred years of financial history. It's called systemic risk, and only federal banking authorities can stop it. He goes on to say, if the Fed doesn't nip the bank run in the bud, regional banks will be decimated, and all that will be left is the biggest banks. You know, the too big to fail ones. This will not help the little guy, he said. So he's calling for a full bailout, saying it's like catastrophic terms. Sorry, I wasn't showing that. Those are those tweets. So, Representative Eric Swalwell, he's the one that was doing the Chinese spy, right? Is that Swalwell? He said, I'm working with my California colleagues to address this Silicon Valley Bank crisis. We must make sure all deposits exceeding $250K are honored. Banking is about confidence. That's true. If depositors lose confidence on the safety of their deposits over $250K, then we are in trouble. Bank management must be investigated. Risk-taking investors should not benefit. But bank customers and innocent employees depending on paychecks should not suffer for greed and recklessness of the wealthiest. Okay. So was it even greed? I don't even know if it was greed. It was poor risk management. It was poor risk management. They could have hedged the interest rate risk, and they chose not to. So they failed. But banks are inherently risky. So that's what Swalwell said. He's a Democrat. David Sachs, I don't know about his political leanings. Matt Gaetz, who's a Republican, says, I will not support a taxpayer bailout of Silicon Valley Bank. And it won't be like, they'll never ask taxpayers to do it. They'll just print the money, which then taxpayers will pay through inflation. So people are wondering if there will be an announcement before the end of the weekend, basically. Otherwise, come Monday, so markets are closed, except for crypto markets, which are still open. Markets are closed all weekend. Banks are closed. People are saying Monday could be the day like it all goes to hell. If the government doesn't say, oh, we're going to fix this. If the government doesn't promise, oh, everyone's going to be okay. So we'll do I have a prediction? Well, all I can say is that eventually there will be a crisis because the system is inherently unstable. Eventually there will be a crisis, and the way the government will solve it is probably by printing money, rather than, because they have two alternatives. They can either let things crash and we can have a depression, and they can just say, oh, like our principles tell us that we shouldn't print money and we're just going to allow the economy to crash and layoffs and unemployment to go out of control and all this stuff. Or we can just print money like we have before, and there might be inflation. So what are they going to say? Every time it's ever happened in the past, they print money, and that's what's good for stuff that's scarce. So, do you want to short anything? I'm told people make all their money going long. So, what you do want to do is, buy gold, silver, buy Bitcoin. You don't have to go in all at once because Bitcoin could crash still. Like there are external factors and stuff. But if you have it, it's safe. It's real. These companies would have been better off if they had a bunch of Bitcoin. It wouldn't be lost. The bank, there's no bank that can go out of business. All right, here's Jim Cramer. Everybody's always calling out Jim Cramer. Here he is recommending the stock last month. Let's see.
The ninth best performer year to date is SVB Financial. Don't yawn. This company's a merchant bank with a deposit base that Wall Street had been mistakenly concerned about. SVB is the old Silicon Valley Bank. Recently bought one of our favorite research firms, Moffett-Nathanson, and it's become less dependent upon private equity and venture capitalist offerings. Wait a second. Those dried up last year. They could come back. Yes, some of them come back here with the stock directly reflects an oversold position. Stock was the fourth worst performer in 2022. I think the fears were not justified. It's a very compelling situation. Hey, by the way, long-term private equity and venture capital, they're not going away. Being the banker to these immense pools of capital has always been a very good business. Stock's still cheap. Now, you have to remember that a stock that falls 66% like SVB Financial did last year, it takes it a lot more to recover. After losing 2/3 of your value, you need a 200% gain to get back to even. This is arithmetic. Some people call it geometry. So you could argue SVB's nearly 40% rally this year is barely a drop in the bucket. And that's how I want you to think it. I think it's also a good example of why these bounce back moves might be far from over. These stocks could have more room to run, especially if you think they were driven down to artificially low levels by tax loss selling, artificial dumping, like we saw.
So there you go. That's Jim Cramer saying it was good stock to buy because I guess it was going up before, but now it's worth zero. If you shorted it, like this is what I heard today. They say I've been tempted to short things before, and I've shorted a few things before. But then I heard somebody say the people who really make money, they might make money going long. That means you hold on to something for a long time and it goes up in value. If you're short, something has to go down in value over a period of time. Anyway, people who were short this bank, SVB, which I think is SIVB or something on the stock exchange, they couldn't even close their position because you have to buy the stock to close the short, and you can't buy the stock right now because it got pulled. So people who are short might not even be able to cash in. So it's good to go long. It's good to go long, and it's good to go long at the bottom if possible. So if things crash, and the price of Bitcoin did go down a lot, so it is a chance to get in. I just don't know what it's going to do. I know there's still issues like USDC, I don't even know what the issue might be. So, but then I have some USD. Tough call between holding USDC and holding ETH at this point. I might have to buy some ETH. All right. And then, like I said, Wells Fargo reported a technical issue today. I don't know if it's related. So, all right, let's see if anybody dropped me any coffees. Thanks, people, for tuning in. And I can check to see if anybody has any questions. You can put them in the chat. And I could take a phone call or two. It's Friday night. Let's see if I got any coffees. It's been raining in California. I was driving all day today in the rain. Oh, thank you, Spaldo. Super appreciate it. Spaldo got 10 coffees and says, thanks for the Friday stream. Thanks, Spaldo. And I think that's it. I think that's the only coffees, but it's a lot of them. So thanks, Spaldo. I appreciate it. And over on Rockfin, I got a tip over there. A couple tips. Let's see. Vogan Filter says, would you rather, who gave a tip? Thanks, Vogan Filter. You're awesome. Would you rather have a monthly buy me a coffee sub or donations on Rockfin? Well, you donate like every show. And donations to Rockfin are cool because they turn into cryptocurrency on the other end. They do fluctuate in value, but they don't take 30%. So tips on Rockfin are good. I appreciate them. And you tip all the time. So if you're talking about becoming a member for $7 a month or donating every show is awesome. But you're the man. You always donate. However you want to do it is cool with me. I like them on Rockfin. On Rockfin, it's cool. It turns into cryptocurrency. So that's cool. And Vogue Filter all tipped again and some financial part of the show might be my favorite. Cool. I appreciate it. I wasn't sure. Yeah. I bet not everybody understood. But if you can understand it, like the way interest rates and bonds and debt work, it is worthwhile to understand. And you're like way ahead of the game if you do. Tits McGee gave a $5 tip, says silver should be over $50 an ounce. Yeah, no kidding. When Fedsters started losing out to the Hunt brothers in the 80s, they literally stopped the game, changed the rules, and crushed them. Does that story sound familiar? They created the ETF funds to keep the price of real down. Thanks for financial talk, Nathan. Good stuff. Okay, thanks, Tits McGee. Cool, I appreciate it. Well, I'm glad people get something out of it. And thank you for the tips. I can look for the phone's open. If you want to call in, 650 gay taxi. I can go for a little bit longer if people want to call in, and I can answer questions that are in the chat. And then, yeah, what am I going to do? I sold some when that Silvergate looked like it was going out of business. Oops. Thanks for that. Thanks, Al Shizzle. It says celebrate the first super chat from Al Shizzle. Thanks, Al Shizzle. That's the sacrifice to YouTube. Appreciate it. Hey, you're on the air.
Hey, Nathan. Since you're talking finance, I had a question for you. I'm trying to get a British-made bouzouki or octave mandolin, and it'll be like I have to save for 10 months, and it's like a ton of money, but it'll be 10 months before it's going to be on its way. Do you think it's worth it? Because do you think the economy is going to crash before 10 months?
Do I think the economy is going to crash before 10 months? Well, yeah, I mean, we're certainly at risk of that because of this.
Yeah.
This is a big bank.
I'm like walking a tight beam or some shit.
Yeah, we're at risk. What's your concern, though? What's your concern? You need to save money. What's your concern, though?
Well, I have to save enough money for the bouzouki, so every month I have to save at least $300 out of my SSDI.
Okay. Well, you'll keep getting your SSDI, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can keep saving the money. So what are you concerned about?
I don't know. Just is it a wise move to buy something expensive like in this economy at this point?
Well, let me ask you about it. Is it something that's like collectible? Is it a collectible item? Like, is it rare?
It's made by Filed, FYLDE, and he makes mandolas, bouzouki, citherns, guitars, everything.
So it's like, is it considered like a top of the line, in demand?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
people know the brand. It's like Fender. If it was a guitar,
it's not quite as like popular because it's not American, right? So,
but people want it. People sell them on. People sell it on eBay and stuff.
Yeah, if they're there, it's rare to find one. I mean, it's kind of rare to get these. And I'm gonna get one before my, impending doom hits.
Well, it's definitely not a bad thing to buy then, because it sounds like it's scarce, in demand, and if there is inflation, then the value should go up. So
here's another problem, man. Check this out, dude. I'm left-handed when it comes to stringed instruments. Left-handed in general, like I write with my left hand. I've been doing that since I was a baby or a kid.
So
I don't know.
So you wouldn't have the kind that has good resale value. Well, anyway, I would just say in general, buying things like that are not things that are bad to buy, because chances are it's going to be more expensive later. So chances are,
I'm thinking so too.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
chances are it'll be more expensive later.
It's like, well, you can't find them anymore, kind of thing. That's a legendary brand, like as far as guitars go in England and the Great Britain and all that.
Yeah. Well, then then it's not a bad investment. Like it's not even a bad investment. So those kinds of things can be good.
My dad's been giving me a lump of about it. And yeah, dude, I've been fighting with him all night about this crap.
Some expensive things, like sometimes expensive things are the most valuable. Like they go up in value. So if
that's what I'll tell him. That's what I'm gonna tell him. But like also, yeah, because it's my freaking money. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. That's out of the league. Anyway, I sorry to bug you, but you were talking money, so I had to ask your advice.
Okay. Yeah. My advice is to buy it if you want it. It sounds like a good investment.
Yeah, I've got my heart set on this freaking thing, dude. A filed signature archtop Bazooki.
Cool.
Oh my god, it's so beautiful, man.
No idea.
All right, man. I'll talk.
All right, sounds good,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, I'll send you a link or something. All right, man. Later.
All right, see ya. Yeah, collectibles are good too. Old American money, like old American coins, anything. Although just the metal itself should go up if it's just inflation and there's like an economic depression. But if they print more money to solve this problem, then there will be more inflation. So I think that's probably why people are buying gold right now. Gold was definitely up today. And now people are buying Bitcoin too. So they may be anticipating some kind of a bailout. If there is a bailout, but if there isn't a bailout, look out. I mean, there could be real systemic problems. Banks are very interconnected. So you can call in if you want. I'll keep the phone open for a second longer. We're keeping the show going. Thanks guys thanks Spaldo. That's great. I did a show, I think 5 days this week. I started my new career doing deliveries, but actually I made good money today working for DoorDash, driving in like serious hazardous conditions, but it paid pretty well for the hours I worked today. So I'm going to try to stick with it. I might drive tomorrow in the rain too. People tip better in the rain. If you get DoorDash, tip your driver. But man, crazy rain here right now. All right, 650-429-8294. If anybody else wants to call in. Oh, I have to post the number. Buy our t-shirts too. Truthclothing.io for t-shirts. Yeah, we cover all kinds of different topics on this show, but economics is one of my favorite. I'd like to, I don't know, I could do kind of classes on it. It's like fascinating that people just lie about it all the time. They lie and they'll say inflation is because of greedy corporations. That's what the socialists and communists want you to believe. Oh, inflation is because of greedy corporations. It doesn't have to do with printing money. That's why I like people like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul, who understand like Austrian style economics, which tells you that when you print money, you get inflation. But the other kind of like monetary, like the stuff people learned in Chicago school is that that's not true, but it's true. When you print money, it dilutes the value of the money that exists. And people do that. Real estate is a good investment because it's resistant to inflation, and because it's scarce and people want it and need it, as a matter of fact. So real estate in general goes up in value over time because the value of money goes down over time. Then the government does things to inflate it, but real estate's going to crash. I mean, Silicon Valley could just be screwed if the government doesn't step in. Like Silicon Valley in general could be totally screwed. And that is like a boom and bust place. So this was a very big bank, very influential in the area. All right, I'll look at the chat. I don't have any more calls. Let's see. Anything else? If you guys have any questions, put it in the chat. Otherwise, we'll sign out and I'll be back next time I'm back. Maybe sometime over the weekend even. Depends. You guys are really nice today. I mean, considering I didn't have, we don't have as many people tuning in. Okay. We'll give a second more for phone calls. I think silver and gold though. I think gold is going to go to the moon. You can buy gold stocks, gold miner stocks, because gold miner stocks can really go up a lot. If gold goes up, if you want to know about gold, like why you would buy a gold miner stock, if the price of gold goes up, then the value of miner stocks can go up like exponentially more. It can also go down more. It's like having leverage kind of, because like a gold mining company, let's say it costs them $1,500 an ounce to get an ounce of gold, and an ounce of gold is $2,000. They make $500, right? Think of it this way. Like if you invest in gold miners, so a gold miner, it costs them a certain amount of money to mine the gold, right? So let's say it's $1,500 an ounce and gold sells for $2,000 an ounce. So they make $500 profit. So you could have the gold. So let's say the price of gold went to $2,500. So if you owned the gold value would have gone up 25%, from 20,000 to 25,000. I'm sorry, from 2,000 to 2,500. But the company that mines the gold, their cost stayed the same. So let's say it was $1,500 an ounce. Their profit doubled. So the value of the company could basically double, where the value of the gold only went up 25%. So that's why when you invest in mining companies, it's like having a leverage, but there's counterparty risk. I mean, it's different, totally different than owning the physical product. But yeah, I have a little, just a little, but I like, I do believe that they will print money. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully you guys are into it. I will, let's see. Oh, I'll do this for people because it was a financial show. I will drop the link. I never give out this link. There is a Discord where we talk about cryptocurrency mostly. There's a Discord where we talk about cryptocurrency mostly. If you'd like to join, I don't even charge for it. Most people charge for things like this. You can join. I'll put in crypto Discord. I'll drop the link right now. That link never gets shared. So if you want to join, you can. I'm feeling generous. Hey, you're on the air. Hello? Hello? Hey. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, what's up? Maybe they were on a delay. Hey, hello? Hello? It's Nathan. Hello?
Hey, Nathan. Sorry about that.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, man. I called in a couple days ago and we were talking about all this economic stuff, and boy, the crap really hit the fan the last couple days, isn't it?
Wow. I mean, a lot of news in cryptocurrency. First it was crypto, like that bank Silvergate went down. And then the New York Attorney General said that Ethereum is a security and they're filing a lawsuit against KuCoin. So crypto crashed. And then this regular bank, I mean, this is a major, I mean, it's, I don't know. Some people, I think, I don't know. I lean more toward the people who say there's like a systemic risk right now, to the people who are like, oh, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I was watching like a mainstream NBC News this evening. I just caught a glimpse of it, and that's basically what they were saying. Oh, the other banks are yes, the other banks are they're not going to get caught up in this contagion or something like that.
Right. So like there's places playing down the contagion. And then there are people who are playing it up. So I tend to think, well, I think the system is very fragile. And so I tend to think that there's likely to be contagion. But people who think the system isn't that fragile, because a bunch of people are like, oh, the banks are better capitalized now, they can handle this stuff. We're in good financial condition. The economy's, people say all this stuff, but I tend to think that the system has so much risk, and there are other bad banks too, like Credit Suisse and stuff, that people have been worried about, that are just on the brink. So I think it could be really bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, like JP Morgan has been playing this crap for the last 10 or 15 years, like just scooping up the pieces when these banks go bust and buying up all this debt. And then, they're that quote unquote too big to fail. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I missed the beginning of the show. I don't know if you talked about it, but you kind of touched on it. Do you think this SVB is linked to the crypto crash in the last couple of days? I mean, are they heavily invested in crypto, or?
Well, apparently, the concern I have is with USDC, which apparently holds a bunch of their cash and that's the cash that's backing the cryptocurrency. So I'm concerned about that. Yeah. And then BlockFi had a bunch of their cash there. So whether it's going to affect the price of cryptocurrency, though, I'm not sure. Like Silvergate going down. Silvergate invested with a bunch of crypto companies, but they didn't manage actual cryptocurrency. So crypto didn't totally super crash when Silvergate went under. So this bank, it sounds like mostly it's like startups, a bunch of startups. So,
well, one of my good friends, he works it's a startup, and he got a corporate email saying that they had half of their bank reserves in SVB.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they said they're working with another bank to transfer the rest of their money over to that bank, but they have to go through the process. I mean, it's up to the government now at this point, right?
Right. And so the problem is, somebody at a company where half of their reserves were with SVB, and that means so what like people are saying is that means a company like that might not even be able to pay payroll.
That's what they were saying. It didn't explicitly say that, but it said, like, the email he showed me said that they would have challenges with basically, inflows and outflows over the next few days.
Yeah, right. Because
I told him like, you better sell your stock and run for the hills. But he's like, well, it's all options. I can't even sell my stock.
Right. Like, can't even sell it.
Futures options.
Right.
So, man. I mean, so you're still, and then silver went up like 1%.
A little.
Gold went up a
little so far.
So, I mean, I guess the question is, what's going to happen come Monday, right? Like Sunday night into Monday. And then I'm assuming you're in crypto for the long run.
Yeah. Although
are you thinking it's going to go ahead?
Although like I did sell some because I got worried about Tether. So I did sell some, like I have a little cash available, thinking that things might really crash. But I'm also holding, like I also have long positions, so that I'm just holding.
Yeah. And that's the problem, I guess. Like, you got some silver, some gold in the safe. And if they close the exchanges, then what's that? Then there's we can't make a fair market assessment of what it's worth, right?
Well, you can always, I mean, somebody's always going to be, well, yeah, I don't know what's going to, you mean if like the paper, you mean if the paper precious metals,
like COMEX shuts down. That's these guys have been talking about for quite some time.
If it shuts down though, there will still be a demand for physical silver. So it's just a question of who's going to set the price. I mean, even as it is now, there is the price on COMEX, but I don't know. Last I checked, spot silver. I mean, if you wanted to buy American Eagles, it was like $20 over spot. So it was kind of like, I mean, it was like $40. I don't know if it still is, but it was like $40 for an American Eagle just recently.
Yeah.
And so the market is, and normally it used to be that you could buy Eagles for $1 or $2 over spot. So the market already kind of is bifurcated a little bit because there's the paper market and then the physical market is so much different. But if the paper market went down, there'd still be a physical market. So it's just the price would be set differently, I guess. But there would still be a going price.
There would still be right in the market. Yeah.
It's just a question of how people would price it.
Right. I mean, that's kind of my concern is like most of these young people. I have a good friend he's in his late 20s, and like I was telling him to buy silver when it crashed down to $13 or whatever, and he's like, "Oh no, I want to get into the stock market." And all these people have this idea like the stock market is just a guaranteed investment, basically. It goes up. It always goes up over time. That's what multiple friends have told me that. If you just stay in long enough, you're going to make money. It goes up over time. It goes up over time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that may be true like in the macro, but in the micro, I mean, how many people lost their shirt, during the market crash in 1929, and we just haven't had something like that. And
or you could invest in Peloton or I don't know, Netflix or Amazon. Like
you just make a bad call.
Yeah, right. I mean, there are stocks that are down 75% from their highs right now. Shopify. I mean, a bunch of stocks that did really well during the pandemic got just absolutely destroyed. Companies go out of business. Tesla, Tesla stock was cut in half, so
like the Fortune 500 or the big what's the one they always tell you to invest in,
the S&P.
I mean, they take companies out and put companies in that group like all the time. Right?
Well, yeah, I know. That's the thing about the S&P is like I was thinking of trying to go short because I saw, the bank was failing. I was like, oh, maybe I should go short. You could go short the S&P,
very difficult.
But even if you short the S&P thinking things are going to be bad, well, all they do is take out the bad stocks and put in better stocks. So like SVB was part of the S&P, but now it's not anymore. So
maybe you talked about this earlier, but did you see the Washington Mutual thing today was going on?
You mean Wells Fargo?
It was Wells Fargo, yeah. They had the customer accounts were getting shorted, and
I bank with Wells. I did
have any
see
problems.
I don't know of any, but I didn't have any deposits coming in or anything. Some people were saying they were having issues with missing deposits. We didn't have any deposits going in, but
have you heard anybody say anything about the repo market or the overnight lending between banks?
I haven't heard anything about the repo market lately, and I don't. And that's one thing. Like, I don't even understand the reverse repo market. Like, I don't even know what that means, and I know it's a big deal, but there are some things. There's some financial stuff that's so complex.
Right, it's complex. I mean, but it comes down to these banks. They have to lend to each other millions, if not billions of dollars on these short-term loans just to keep, enough money in their accounts. And then not only is it like fractional reserve, but, we used to owe 10 to 1, right? It's like pretty high reserve, but now they can go up to 100 to 1. And then when they've got them leveraged against these derivatives, it could be up to 1,000. Who knows what they're leveraged to?
I know. It just could be catastrophic. So,
but and then, I mean, at some point, the government will step in, right? What's the last cannon they have is the central bank digital currency. You'd think, right? I mean,
Sure.
At some point, they're going to try to implement that. They have the plans, so
yeah,
they just need a catalyst.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know I don't know how long they're going to take or what they're going to do about the digital dollar and stuff, but I don't think they're ready for it.
I know it.
Yeah. But
yeah, I know it's moving forward. I don't have all the details. It was not fresh in my mind, but Brazil was trying to do something with the central bank digital currency and force people on it.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention that Lula said that he's going to tie people's welfare benefits to their vaccine status in Brazil.
Oh, really? Oh, great.
Yeah. He said you're not going to be able to get your welfare unless you have your family vaccinated.
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just America, like how Americans, it's going to take something really major for, at this point, especially the way, I mean, I guess everywhere is really like, people are on one side or the other, but I mean, Americans, it's the one thing Americans don't like is that you can't tell them what to do. Like we don't like to be dictated to, right? I mean, so it's going to take something really big for Americans to accept the fact that, like I said, you'll own nothing and maybe be happy about it.
Right.
I really think, like I was talking about the other day, that they would have to do something where they're just say, no matter, we're going to just wipe all your debts clean. You won't have your mortgage debt anymore. You won't have your car loan, but you're not going to own it.
Right.
You're not going to have the deed. You're not going to be able to freely sell and trade that. But that's the only way it seems like for me to make sense for them to institute like a full digital currency where they can have an expiration date and all that stuff.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know how close we are to them actually being able to do anything, and if it's if there's some plan to crash things first. But
I mean, I guess that's the kind of the game of the banking industry, is this opaqueness, right? Like you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know how leveraged the bank is, and
right.
It's a confidence game. I mean, they just admit that about the economy. They just come out and say. I mean, I was watching the HBO document or the HBO. It was kind of like The Big Short. I can't remember what it was called, but
Margin
HBO
call?
did. Yeah, it was about Hank Paulson, and they had a bunch of big, like William Hurt and a bunch of big actors in it. And I just remember, and then they were showing like actual news clips, and all they were talking about is how we have to have confidence in this system, and if there's no confidence,
right?
And I mean that's just a con game, and that's all it is.
Yeah, I know, and that's even what they say. I mean, that's what they say too. That's what Eric Swalwell said. He was like, people have to have confidence. People have to have confidence. It's like So have they? And I know they were talking about the whole reparations stuff in California, and it seemed like it was getting. Has that kind of died down in the last couple months? There's something about it in. There's something about it in San Francisco or I don't know.
Right.
They're talking about it in San Francisco, but I'm skeptical that's ever going to happen. But they're talking about it. I don't know.
Well, that would be another way, like a catalyst for people to be like, to create some kind of financial chaos.
Yeah.
For people to go, well, if that person's getting X amount of $DigiDollars every month, I need to be spot invested. Maybe that's one way they'll do it. So to say, well, we're just going to give this class of people these DigiDollars,
right?
And they can only spend them on food, housing, and utilities,
right?
And and they're going to expire in 3 months when they don't use them,
right?
And then slowly, I mean, how many transactions does the average person make every day that's cash?
Actual cash?
Yeah.
No, I mean, none. Nobody does anymore.
Nobody uses cash, and there's so many places where they don't even accept cash.
Yeah, I know.
Or I go into places and you get like someone that's under 30 or 40 years old, and you give them cash, and they don't even know what to do. They look at you like you're crazy. You know,
Yeah.
you have $100 bill, and people just don't know what to do.
Yeah. Right.
Except, you know, you go into the silver, like, you know, the coin dealer or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
And that, yeah, but it's, I don't know, man. It's I was talking to my friend about this is like a month or two ago, and the acceleration of events right now. And we were talking about some kind of issue, and I said, you know, and if this pace of things keeps going, like in a year, what are we going to be worried about? You know, I mean, it just keeps going and going, and it just keeps picking up pace, and nothing ever gets resolved. No one ever is held accountable.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's,
well, we'll see where
me
things go.
being a father of young kids, you know, I guess it would be worse if I had kids that were just now entering the labor market, or,
Right.
you know, 18, 19 years old. I definitely wouldn't be telling my kids to go to college at this point.
Well, I know it's just a crazy, well, yeah, college is just a crazy investment. If it's not a reasonable price, then it doesn't make sense. But
right.
It's not that it's inherently bad, but what they teach is fucked up. And then the price has just gotten out of control.
Yeah.
So,
And then there's so many of these people that are, I mean, they're just like mid-level management, you know, and like we were talking about the other day, how many of those white collar jobs, like either the AI could answer emails for somebody, you know, how much of it they're just answering emails, right?
yeah.
They're just gonna outsource that to the AI.
Yes. Yeah.
And it'll just be gone.
Yeah. And
and I think
GPT-4 is about to come out too.
Is that going to be open source? Are they talking about it, or?
I don't know about that. I doubt it.
Okay.
But,
they said they still haven't hooked the original one up to the internet.
Right.
GPT.
Right.
How is that even? How can it? That doesn't make sense to me.
It learned from the internet, but only up through a certain time. So it just can't access. Yeah, it can't access the current internet. Bing can, and I did sign up for Bing, and I haven't even used it yet. But Bing can search the internet. So I'll see.
And that's the one that said it wanted to kill it. That's the one that said it wanted to kill it, though.
Yeah. Exactly.
It had an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Like instantaneously.
Yeah, exactly. So
how much of this is people? It's like this. It's like predictive programming. You know, like how much of it is just actual what's actually going to happen. It's hard to describe. Like how much is actually going to happen, and how much is it just we've set these things in motion, and because we think it's going to happen, that's the way it's going to happen. You know, I don't know if you're like into the whole kind of fluid reality thing, but
yeah,
it seems like, you know, like retro causality. Have you heard of that?
I'm definitely aware of that, how that works.
Yeah. And it seems like the more and more you dig into this stuff, the more and more it seems like that's what's going on.
Sometimes I think that when I talk about something, it makes things happen. So it's possible.
I mean, definitely. You know, there's the law of attraction, which is true, but it just seems like things are getting crazier and crazier.
Yep. Things are crazy. Things are crazy with the banks, and things could get really crazy. So, you know,
and everyone's so primed with all the television programming for like the zombie apocalypse or whatever.
Yep.
And I mean, like it wouldn't even take like any type of infection. You know, people go without food for 2 or 3 days, and they're basically zombies at that point, you know. So
yeah.
Well, like I said, I appreciate getting a hold of you and talking to you.
Thanks, man. Good talking to you too.
To the show. And
thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you're keeping going, and I can tell, like I said, that you're talking about stuff that you're interested in.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, bud. Have a good night.
All right, thanks. You too.
Later.
See ya. All right. Yeah. All right, cool. All right. Well, that's the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Keep your money somewhere safe. If you have more than 250 grand in the bank, I'm jealous anyway. But if you do, then be concerned and start buying Bitcoin and stuff and gold and silver. Prepare. All right. And that's it. Thanks, everybody. Good seeing you guys. And we'll see you at the next show. If not before, then Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Right here, wherever you're watching it. All right. For now, that's what it is.